worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Trump blasts the judge in New York civil trial and leaves the courthouse. Steve Scalise Jim Jordan to run for Speaker after Kevin McCarthy's removal. Biden touts efforts to ease student debt, including $9 billion more in loan forgiveness. Biden says he will deliver major speech on Ukraine. Striking Kaiser Permanente workers say patients and employees are suffering under staffing shortages. Prosecutor opens trial for FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, saying he stole at least $10 billion. Trio win Nobel in chemistry for quantum dots. Five wounded in shooting at Morgan State University in U.S. U.S. takes aim at China companies' executives over fentanyl supply chain. "21 killed after bus falls from Venice Bridge and catches fire." Pope opens Vatican meeting amid tensions with conservatives. U.S. transfers Iran weapons to Kiev. Morocco, Spain, Portugal to host 2030 World Cup, Saudi Arabia to bid for 2034. And Simone Biles leads U.S. women to record 7th straight team title at Gymnastics World Championships. You were listening to Headlines, now news in detail. This is the third day of New York Attorney General Letitia James' $250 million civil fraud trial against former President Donald Trump, two of his adult children, and the family's company. Trump was admonished yesterday by Judge Arthur Engoron after he attacked one of his clerks on social media. The former president's attorneys filed a notice of appeal of the judge's ruling last week that Trump had committed persistent fraud. During the cross-examination this morning, Trump's lawyer sought to damage the credibility of his former accountant, Donald Bender, who admitted that he did not dispute property valuations that the Attorney General's office has alleged were inflated. James blasted the former president on her way into the courtroom for the attorney's testimony, calling his appearance at the trial a political stunt and a fundraising stop. "The Donald Trump show is over," she said, calling his comments offensive and baseless and devoid of facts and evidence, while not specifying which remarks she was referring to. Trump has repeatedly called the AG corrupt and her civil charges against him baseless during his 2.5 days at the courthouse.
Never happened, a thing like this has never happened before. And just simply, I put in financial statements with a disclaimer. In other words, don't even bother reading them. I borrowed the money, I paid back the money in full, 100%. There were no defaults, there were no letters of reprimand, the banks were extremely happy, and in many cases I paid the money back early.
Trump departed the courthouse this afternoon after the morning's proceedings. Minutes earlier, Trump had sent out a fundraising email that stated, "I just left the courthouse for the day for my unjust trial in New York." The trial resumed without the former president, who left the courtroom at the break.
Well, you should feel this way, you should think this way, you should see it this way. Here's why. But I just recommend that you get the transcripts for yourself and you read them for yourself and make a determination and then start with the facts. Thank you. Reporting live from the courthouse.
McCarthy, representative of California, was ousted from the speakership in a historic vote yesterday. Hours later, he announced he won't try to reclaim the position. This is the first time in U.S. history that a Speaker of the House has been voted out of office. Representative Patrick McHenry of North Carolina will now serve as the temporary Speaker under House rules. Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio became the first candidate to say he is running for Speaker. Representative Steve Scalise of Los Angeles was making calls today to build support. Republican Study Committee Chairman Kevin Hurd of Oklahoma has also suggested he may run. House Republicans will gather October 11 to hold internal elections to nominate McCarthy's replacement. His possible successors include members of his leadership team and some top conservative allies. The House plans to leave for a week and will hold a Speaker election next Wednesday. The House has adjourned until Friday at 10 a.m. ET. McHenry, who is the temporary Speaker, took no questions from reporters outside of the House chamber. President Joe Biden on Wednesday touted his administration's efforts to address student debt, including an additional $9 billion in relief that the White House announced. The additional relief, said to help about 125,000 Americans, brings the Biden administration's total approved debt cancellation to $127 billion for nearly 3.6 million Americans, Biden said in remarks at the White House. This kind of relief is life-changing for individuals and their families, but it's good for our economy as a whole as well. By freeing millions of Americans from the crushing burden of student debt, it means they can go and get their lives in order, Biden said. The announcement comes just days after federal student loan repayments began again for the first time in over 3 years. The result of the Supreme Court's rejection of Biden's pandemic-era debt relief plan in June, which was aimed at canceling up to $20,000 in student debt for about 43 million eligible borrowers. The newly approved $9 billion includes $5.2 billion in additional debt relief for 53,000 beneficiaries of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, a White House statement said. The new funds also include nearly $2.8 billion for about 51,000 borrowers on income-based repayment plans who made 20 years or more on payments, but never got the relief they were entitled to, the release said. Another $1.2 billion will go to an estimated 22,000 borrowers who have a total or permanent disability, the statement said. President Joe Biden said on Wednesday that he would deliver a major speech about funding for Ukraine and why it's critically important for the United States and our allies that we keep our commitment. The comments came in response to a question from NBC News about whether he was worried about the U.S. being unable to deliver aid to Ukraine due to the disarray on Capitol Hill. The president took questions from the press following his planned remarks on student debt. "I'm going to make the argument that it's overwhelmingly in the interest of the United States of America that Ukraine succeed, Biden said. Biden argued that the administration's focus on international coalition building has improved the position of the US. They have strengthened us across the board, not just as it relates to Ukraine, whether it's Japan and South Korea or whether it's what's happening in Europe itself, Biden said. And so I think that it's clear to the vast majority of the foreign policy community on both left and right that this has been a valuable exercise for the United States of America to increase the support we have around the world. From coast to coast, Wednesday, more than 75,000 Kaiser Permanente workers picketed outside of healthcare facilities, arguing that staffing shortages have reached crisis levels for employees and patients alike. The strike, which the coalition of Kaiser Permanente unions has said is the largest work stoppage of healthcare workers in U.S. history, was on display from California to Virginia, with the workers walking out at 6 a.m. local time. The striking workers include a wide array of professionals, including vocational nurses, ultrasound sonographers, respiratory therapists, emergency department technicians, housekeepers, and more. The majority of striking workers were in California, according to a representative. 60,000 from the Service Employees International Union, United Healthcare Workers West, and an additional 5,000 from the Office and Professional Employees International Union, Local 30 in San Diego. In Sacramento, just before 7:30 a.m. PT, striking workers lined the street outside of a medical center holding signs that read, "Kaiser workers won't be silenced and respect and value healthcare workers." Some shook tambourines, rang yellow bells, or banged on pots. Many drivers honked in support as they passed by. A prosecutor opened a fraud trial Wednesday by telling jurors that FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried was on top of the world a year ago, hobnobbing with celebrities before his historic fraud was exposed, leaving customers and investors without at least $10 billion they thought was secure. A defense lawyer insisted his client didn't steal from anyone. Assistant U.S. Attorney Nathan Reid repeatedly pointed at Bankman-Fried sitting with his lawyers in a suit and accused him of committing a massive fraud. He said Bankman-Fried told lies to his investors while he spent their money on himself, his friends and family, buying lavish homes and beachfront property in the Bahamas, spending millions of dollars on political donations to gain influence in Washington. Bankman-Fried maintains he was not to blame for a massive fraud that prosecutors allege in 7 charges, including war fraud and conspiracy, brought against him since his arrest last December in the Bahamas. In court Wednesday, he sat with a water bottle and a laptop computer in front of him. They say the California man defrauded thousands of investors and customers in his business of billions of dollars by siphoning off their money for his own uses, including financing his business and making big political contributions to try to influence government regulation of cryptocurrency. Defense lawyers insist their client had no criminal intent as he became famous in the crypto world while growing FTX and a related business, Alameda Research, into multi-billion-dollar heavyweights in the cryptocurrency industry. Scientists Mongi Buendi, Louis Brass, and Alexei Ekimov won the 2023 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the discovery and synthesis of quantum dots, the award-giving body said on Wednesday. Nanoparticles and quantum dots are used in LED lights and TV screens and can also be used to guide surgeons while removing cancer tissue. The more than century-old prize is awarded by the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences and is worth 11 million Swedish crowns. Earlier on Wednesday, the Academy appeared to have inadvertently published the names of the 3 scientists it said had won this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Buendi is a professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Brass is professor emeritus at Columbia University, and Ekimov works for Nanocrystals Technology Inc. Brass was hired by AT&T Bell Labs in 1972, where he spent 23 years, devoting much of the time to studying nanocrystals. Boendi was born in Paris and grew up in France, Tunisia, and the US. Boendi did his postdoctoral research under Brass, then joined MIT in 1990 and became professor in 1996. Ekimov was born in the Soviet Union, worked for the Vavilov State Optical Institute before moving to the United States. In 1999, Ekimov was named chief scientist at Nanocrystals Technology Inc. A shooting at Morgan State University's homecoming celebration in Baltimore has left 5 people with non-threatening wounds and prompted an hours-long lockdown. People on campus took shelter during a 4-hour lockdown on Tuesday while police scouted rooms for suspects. In an abundance of caution, the historically black college cancelled classes scheduled for Wednesday. Baltimore police officials said that the victims are aged between 18 and 22. 4 are male and 1 is female, while all but 1 victim is from MSU. Investigators did not know how many shooters were involved. Police Commissioner Richard Worley told reporters in a news conference early on Wednesday. The police have not released any information about suspects or announced any arrests. The United States has imposed sanctions and launched indictments against dozens of Chinese companies and individuals it claims are involved in the illegal trade of the highly addictive drug fentanyl. The charges and sanctions brought by the U.S. Attorney's offices in Florida and the Federal Treasury Department on Tuesday were strongly condemned by China. U.S. officials described their actions, which include charges against Chinese companies and executives accused of advertising, manufacturing, and distributing precursor chemicals for synthetic opioids such as fentanyl, as the latest effort in their fight against the deadliest overdose crisis in U.S. history. We are here today to deliver a message on behalf of the United States government. We know who is responsible for poisoning the American people with fentanyl, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland told reporters. We know that this global fentanyl supply chain, which ends with the deaths of Americans, often starts with chemical companies in China, he said. Prosecutors accused some of the Chinese chemical manufacturing companies of using fake labels and other mechanisms when shipping the illegal substances to the U.S. to avoid detection. Other shipments went to Mexico's powerful Sinaloa drug cartel, prosecutors said. Now it's time for global updates. At least 21 people, including 2 children and foreign tourists, were killed Tuesday and several others wounded when a bus running on methane plunged off a bridge in Venice and caught fire. A tragedy has struck our community this evening, Mayor Luigi Brugnero wrote on Facebook, describing the site of the crash as an apocalyptic scene. The provisional toll is at least 21 fatalities and over 20 people hospitalized, said Luca Zaia, the governor of the Venice region, deploring a tragedy of enormous proportions. Efforts are on to extract and identify the bodies, he said. The victims and the wounded include people of several nationalities, not just Italians. A City Hall official said the death included Ukrainian tourists, while Italian news agency ANSA said the fatalities included German and French citizens. 3 Ukrainians, a Croatian, German, and French national were among the injured, a city official told AFP. The bus was returning from Venice's historic center to a camping site when the accident occurred around 7:30 p.m. Pope Francis has opened an important meeting on the future of the Catholic Church, with progressives hoping it will lead to more women in leadership roles and conservatives warning that church doctrine on everything from homosexuality to the hierarchy's authority is at risk. Francis presided over a solemn mass in St. Peter's Square on Wednesday to formally open the meeting, with hundreds of clergy from around the world celebrating on the altar before the rank-and-file Catholic lay people whose presence and influence at this meeting marks a decisive shift for the Catholic Church. Rarely in recent times has a Vatican gathering generated as much hope, hype, and fear as this 3-week closed-door meeting known as a synod. It won't make any binding decisions and is only the first session of a 2-year process, but it nevertheless has drawn an acute battle line in the Church's perennial left-right divide and marks a defining moment for Francis and his reform agenda. Even before it started, the gathering was historic because Francis decided to let women and lay people vote alongside bishops in any final document produced. While fewer than a quarter of the 365 voting members are non-bishops, the reform is a radical shift away from a hierarchy-focused synod of bishops and evidence of Francis' belief that the Church is more about its flock than its shepherds. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,070.93. The NYSE Composite is increased by 27.51 points or 0.18%. Tokyo stock close price is 30,526.88. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 711.06 points or 2.28%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,110.48. The Shanghai index is increased by 3.16 points or 0.10%. Hong Kong stock close price is 17,195.84. The Hang Seng index is decreased by 135.38 points or 0.78%. Bombay stock close price is 65,226.04. The Sensex index is decreased by 286.06 points or 0.44%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. The international football body FIFA has announced that the 2030 Football World Cup will be hosted by Morocco, Portugal and Spain, with the first 3 matches held in Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay to mark the 100-year anniversary of the tournament. The decision announced on Wednesday means the World Cup will be held in 6 different countries across 3 continents. The FIFA Council unanimously agreed that the sole candidacy will be the combined bid of Morocco, Portugal and Spain, which will host the event in 2030 and qualify automatically from the existing slot allocation, FIFA said in a statement. Additionally, having taken into account the historical context of the first ever FIFA World Cup, the FIFA Council further unanimously agreed to host a unique centenary celebration ceremony in the country's capital, Montevideo, as well as 3 World Cup matches in Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay respectively. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has announced its intention to bid to host the 2034 FIFA World Cup, state news agency SPA reported on Wednesday. Led by Simone Biles, the US women won a seventh consecutive team title at the Gymnastics World Championships on Wednesday night. The American team of Biles, Shelly Jones, Sky Blakely, and Lin Wong combined for a total of 167.729 points to edge Brazil and France. The US team won by a margin of 2.199 points as the final proved to be a closer contest than anticipated after the Americans put up a dominant performance in qualifying. The US women have won gold in the team event at every World Championship that included a team competition since 2011. Their victory in Antwerp broke a tie with the Chinese men and made Biles the most decorated female gymnast in history. Biles now has 26 World Championship medals, 20 of them gold, to go with her 7 Olympic medals, including the 2016 Olympic title. Her 33 combined medals at the sport's 2 biggest events are one more than what Larisa Latynina of the Soviet Union achieved. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. Before finishing today's news, let's hear out the headlines again. Trump blasts the judge in New York civil trial and leaves the courthouse. Steve Scalise Jim Jordan to run for Speaker after Kevin McCarthy's removal. Biden touts efforts to ease student debt, including $9 billion more in loan forgiveness. Biden says he will deliver major speech on Ukraine. Striking Kaiser Permanente workers say patients and employees are suffering under staffing shortages. Prosecutor opens trial for FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, saying he stole at least $10 billion. Trio win Nobel in chemistry for quantum dots. Five wounded in shooting at Morgan State University in US. US takes aim at China companies' executives over fentanyl supply chain. "21 killed after bus falls from Venice Bridge and catches fire." Pope opens Vatican meeting amid tensions with conservatives. US transfers Iran weapons to Kiev. Morocco, Spain, Portugal to host 2030 World Cup, Saudi Arabia to bid for 2034. And Simone Biles leads US women to record 7th straight team title at Gymnastics World Championships. That's all for today. Keep watching Millennium News Hour for latest news update. To stay updated, like our Facebook page, subscribe our YouTube channel, and visit our website. Our website address is www.millenniumnews24.com. Stay connected with us for all the latest news worldwide. Thank you.